If you've ever stood over your garden wondering why your plants look hungry no matter how much compost or fertilizer you apply, you're not alone. I used to spend weekends feeding my soil with compost teas, worm castings, even expensive organic fertilizers. But honestly, nothing seemed to last. My vegetables grew, but not vigorously. The soil smelled flat, it was dry on top, crusted underneath, and I was constantly reapplying amendments to keep things going. Then I discovered a centuries-old method that changed everything. It turned my tired, depleted soil into a thriving microbe metropolis in just a few days. And the best part? I haven't had to touch a bag of fertilizer since. Today on Hydrohaven, I'm going to share that ancient secret with you, along with exactly how I used it to supercharge my garden. This is more than a fix. It's a full-blown microbial revival that builds from the bottom up. And it works whether you're gardening in containers, raised beds, or right in the ground. So grab your shovel and let's dig into something that could change the way you garden forever. The method I'm talking about goes by many names in different cultures, but it's best described as a kind of fermented soil layering. It borrows from ancient Korean, Japanese, and indigenous practices that all share a common belief. Soil doesn't just need nutrients, it needs life. And to bring soil to life fast, you feed it the way nature does, with layered organic matter that ferments underground, igniting microbial growth from deep within the root zone. This isn't just composting, it's more intentional. You're creating a subterranean buffet for bacteria, fungi, and other beneficial soil organisms. One that kickstarts microbial activity even in the most compacted or dusty soil. I started by clearing out a 3x3-foot patch in one of my raised beds. You can do this in any garden space that gets at least 6 hours of sun. I dug down about 6 inches to create a shallow pit and saved the topsoil off to the side. Then I began layering. First came a mix of small twigs and dried stems, something woody but not fully decomposed. These act like a scaffold, holding air and structure while slowly breaking down over time. On top of that went unfinished compost, mostly kitchen scraps that hadn't fully rotted, including coffee grounds, banana peels, and carrot tops. The key is moisture. You want everything damp, not soaked, so that fermentation can begin. Next, I added one of the most important ingredients, rice water. This is the starchy water left over from rinsing rice before cooking. In Korean natural farming, it's known to attract lactobacillus, a powerful probiotic that begins breaking down organic matter fast and supports healthy fungal activity in the soil. Then came a thin layer of aged leaf mold. This acts like a fungal starter culture, introducing mycorrhizal fungi that build symbiotic relationships with plant roots. Finally, I added a few crushed eggshells and a sprinkle of wood ash to balance pH and add trace minerals. After layering, I gently covered everything with the original soil I'd set aside and topped it with mulch. Within 2 to 3 days, I noticed the soil becoming darker and looser. By the end of the week, when I dug a small hole to check progress, the compost layer was warm and smelled pleasantly earthy, like a forest floor. There were already earthworms moving in and tiny white fungal threads running through the mulch. This wasn't just decomposition, this was life taking root. What surprised me most was how fast my plants responded. I had a row of chard nearby that had been struggling for weeks. 2 days after building the fermented layer just 18 inches away, they perked up. Leaves grew bigger and more upright. A tomato transplant nearby, which had been static for nearly 10 days, suddenly shot up several inches in a single week. I didn't add a drop of fertilizer, all I did was feed the soil, and let the microbes do the rest. The magic of this method lies in its simplicity and biological wisdom. Traditional surface composting can take months to become biologically active. But underground fermentation happens faster, in a controlled, moist, warm environment where microbes thrive. So, rice water encourages the growth of lactic acid bacteria, which act as microbial catalysts. And, leaf mold provides beneficial fungi that help structure the soil and transport nutrients to plant roots. Unfinished compost delivers raw organic matter that microbes feast on, and the woody base creates air pockets and drainage, preventing the whole thing from turning anaerobic. The result? Well, it's a living sponge beneath your plants that holds moisture, buffers pH, and delivers nutrients precisely when and where roots need them. And once the microbial network is re-established, you no longer need to constantly feed your garden. It becomes self-sustaining. For raised beds, you can build a fermented layer before planting, or dig a narrow trench down the middle and create a microbial zone that feeds the entire bed. In containers, use smaller quantities and focus on layering closer to the root zone. For in-ground gardens, try creating circular microbe mounds between rows or around the base of fruit trees. The key is layering damp materials, adding a microbial inoculant like rice water and covering it up to let it work underground. Think of it, like setting a slow cooker for your soil. It takes a bit of prep, but delivers long-lasting nourishment. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a method you can keep repeating in different parts of your garden to slowly transform your entire space into a living, breathing ecosystem. Each new fermented pocket acts as a launch pad, spreading microbial life outward and upward. And unlike store-bought fertilizers that vanish with the next watering, this soil life stays, multiplies, and builds resilience. You can tweak the ingredients depending on what you have. No rice water? Well, you can use diluted whey or even a spoon of plain yogurt. And if you don't have any leaf mold, just add a scoop of forest soil or compost from an old pile. What really matters is balance: carbon, nitrogen, moisture, and a good microbial jumpstart. Since using this method, my garden has gone from needy to nearly self-managing. I water less, fertilize almost never, and honestly, I harvest more. And I've learned to look for signs of true soil health, not just plant size, but worm activity, crumbly structure, and that unmistakable forest floor smell. So, if your garden feels tired, if your compost isn't cutting it, or if you're just ready to break up with fertilizer for good, try this ancient secret. Layer, cover, and wait. Your microbes will take it from there. If you found this guide helpful, please hit the subscribe button and share it with a friend who's been struggling with soil health. This is Hydro Haven, and we're here to bring your garden back to life, one microbe at a time.